What's up, guys? Welcome to my video podcast. I'm Dr. Nash Jocic, bodybuilding champion, somebody who spent over 40 years in bodybuilding and fitness industry. I have competed 46 times and won 17 titles. And also in the meantime, I have published 9 books on muscle growth, fat loss, competitive bodybuilding, nutrition. And also, I have personally trained and supervised over 3,000 clients who wanted to get in shape, build muscle, and burn fat at the same time. So I hope that on my YouTube channel, you will find advice that will benefit you too in order to get in the best possible shape of your life. Now, this time, I would like to talk about 5 biggest mistakes that everyone makes in the gym, and also how to avoid them. Now, I decided to do this video because I am in the gym every day for a few hours, and I can tell you that there is a lot of wrongdoings going on there. So I'm just thinking this would be a great time to maybe address these 5 biggest mistakes that I see in the gyms and help you to understand why are they happening, which ones are those ones, and also how to avoid them. Now, if you are primarily interested in muscle building and fat loss, which I believe most of you watching this video and listening to this podcast are, then this video will be relevant to you. But if the reasons for you going to the gym are different, as actually happens unfortunately in many cases, like if the reasons for you are social, you're going there to meet somebody, you're going there to do some, funny videos for YouTube or Instagram or whatever, then in that scenario, this video is not going to be for you because you're probably not going to benefit at all. So again, if you are interested in building muscle and burning fat, and maybe developing the best shape and the best body of your life, then listen carefully. Now, I'm going to talk about 5 biggest mistakes. So please stay tuned and watch this video until the end, because every single mistake that I'm going to be talking about is extremely important. So don't miss any of them. Now, mistake number 1 is avoiding multi-joint exercises. This is ridiculous, because when I started training, all that I have done, and not just me, most of the other people, were multi-joint exercises. So I think the tide has shifted and people are now spending a lot of time doing some really exotic exercises that never existed in the past, doing a lot of isolating exercises, spending hours performing them, focusing on them, trying to really feel every part of the motion and paying attention to them. But I'm seeing that they have no muscles on them, they're not in good shape. I don't know where they're reading and where they're learning these things, but what I can tell you, there are less and less people in the gyms doing squats, leg press, bench press, dips, not to mention pull-ups. I hardly see anybody doing pull-ups nowadays. Bent over rowings, shoulder presses, upright rows, and similar multi-joint exercises, which are actually bread and butter for stimulating muscle growth. Not accidentally, they're called basic exercises. So multi-joint or basic exercises, because they include not only the targeted muscle group, but also the other muscles which are participating in that particular movement. Like, for example, when you do bench press, you're not using your just major pectoralis, but you're also using your deltoids, you're using your triceps muscles. And these multi-joint exercises allow you to stress the targeted muscle group 100%. So you will never be able to stress the targeted muscle group, especially the major muscle groups like legs, chest, and back, more than with multi-joint exercises. For example, if if you don't perform squats for legs, you're going to be missing a lot, because your quadriceps will never be stimulated as much as possible, as much as as squats will allow you, will stimulate those muscle fibers. You can, if you do just leg extensions or one leg extension, or maybe lunges or some similar hip movements or similar stuff like that, you will be just getting a little bit of pump. You're going to feel those muscles, but they're not going to grow, because for muscles to grow, you have to stimulate all available muscle fibers, especially those muscle fibers of type 2B, which are fast twitch muscle fibers and also called white muscle fibers. And they will be completely dormant. They will be asleep while you are performing some, single leg extensions or some other similar isolating exercises, CC squats or similar, which will never target these very hard to activate muscle fibers, again, muscle type 2B. In order to do that, and these are the critical ones for building muscle size, in order to do that, you need to put extreme effort. And this is the problem. Doing squats, doing pull-ups, the same thing, the same principle apply for doing pull-ups. Bent over rows, doing shoulder press, barbell or dumbbell shoulder presses, or heavy upright rows. These exercises will stimulate those type 2B muscle fibers more, 100 times more than just doing a single arm laterals or cable laterals for rear delts, and focusing on these details and avoiding these multi-joint exercises. It's absolutely ridiculous to see that. I couldn't even contemplate doing that when I started training. Now, the problem is that people watch a lot of videos, also on Instagram. They can see professional bodybuilders doing all these isolating exercises, but they pick up only those. They forget that these people who are 250, 300 pounds of pure muscle, for example, that they build these bodies exclusively by doing multi-joint exercises. So this is absolutely no doubt about it. I've done it. Many other people done it. You just look at all these iconic bodybuilders, the most famous, the professional bodybuilders and similar advanced bodybuilders, and you will see that all these people were more or less doing the same things. Everybody was doing squats, leg press, hack squats for legs predominantly. For back, they would do pull-ups, heavy lat pull-downs, they would do bent over rows. For chest, they would do bench press, dips, incline presses, etc. Shoulders, shoulder presses, upright rows. And especially for these major muscle groups like legs, back, and chest, you have to do multi-joint exercises. Story about biceps, triceps, calves, and smaller muscle groups is slightly different, but I'm talking about the multi-joint exercises and their importance in your muscle building strategy. So I would suggest, to avoid this misconception, go back, focus on multi-joint exercises, and eventually when you build certain size and when you're happy with the muscle mass that you have achieved, you can start implementing isolating exercises. Once again, professional bodybuilders are doing them, but they're not only doing them, so don't be fooled by that. So remember, they've done in the past, and most of them are still doing multi-joint exercises, plus they're doing these isolating exercises in order to improve certain aspects of their particular muscles, etc., etc. But if you are still in the especially beginning phase, make sure that major muscle groups are covered with the multi-joint basic exercises. Now, mistake number 2 is the lack of progressive overload. Again, I see people, especially again related to the problem, mistake number 1, performing all the time some isolating cable exercises, trying to achieve certain pump or feeling of the muscle. They are focusing on them. But over the period of time, over months and months, years, these people are still the same, simply because they're still using the same weights. They never increased the weights, so they didn't apply the principle of overload, progressive overload, which is essential for increasing muscle mass. For example, if you're doing bench press with 100 kgs and you do 10 reps, if you continue to do 100 kgs, 10 reps, week after week, month after month, year after year, you're going to stay the same. why would you grow? Why would the body grow? So you need to consistently, progressively add extra weight as you go along. So you need to get a little bit stronger in every exercise. But that is not going to happen if your main exercise for shoulder is one arm cable laterals. That is never going to happen. So if it is shoulder press, then over time you should slowly put a little bit more weight, because that multi-joint exercise will make you stronger. So once becoming stronger, once doing, let's say, 50 kgs, 10 reps, and then over time you start doing 12, 13, 14 reps, you should increase that weight. So from 50, maybe start 52.5 or maybe 55, no more than 10% increase. But then once you hit again higher number of reps, this is the sign that you're strong enough. You should again overload. You should put a little bit more weight. And this is the only way that you will constantly keep progressing and putting more muscle mass on your particular muscle group. So don't get stuck with only these isolating exercises and the same weight, because you're achieving some pump and you are feeling your muscles. Oh, I feel my muscles doing this exercise with cable triceps extension or one leg extension. I really feel my legs. Yeah, you're going to feel your legs, you know. You can feel your legs even if you go for deep tissue massage, but it's not going to grow. So feeling that muscle is just one aspect, but it's not the whole story. You need that progressive overload. And if that doesn't happen, you will just reach certain level of development, if you reach that certain level of development, and you will get stuck there. So focus again on the major basic exercises, multi-joint exercises, and try to constantly increase number of reps in good form. That will suggest that you're ready to increase the weight. Anywhere from 5 to 10% increase of weight until you again pass this magic number, let's say, of 10 reps per set. If you start doing 12, 13, 14, then again increase the weight in order to give your muscle that necessary stimulus for growth. Now, mistake number 3 is very common, and experienced bodybuilders, people who've been in the industry for some time, they all see that, they know that. Everybody, often I'm looking at my experienced colleagues, and we are just, laughing, because people are doing a lot of exercising wrong. So wrong form of execution is the third biggest mistake that I often see in the gym. Again, watching professional bodybuilders or advanced bodybuilders doing multi-joint exercises with heavy weights, like, for example, doing squats with 4 or 5 plates each side, or doing bench press with 3 plates each side, or doing pull-ups, maybe 15, 20 reps body weight, somebody who is 250 pounds. It's a really motivating thing to see. But trying to copy that can cause a problem. Why? Because people think that if they lift heavier or extremely heavy, the results will come. But the problem is, when they try to do that, they are doing everything possible in order to move that heavy weight from point A to point B. And the form that they are using is very bad. Most of the time, they are trying to lower the weights very quickly. Because lowering the weights slowly, especially in the multi-joint exercises, like, for example, squats or leg press or bench press, is very difficult. So in order to move heavy weights, they drop the weight and then bounce off. Either doing squats, they bounce off, or doing leg press, again, they drop the weights and then bounce off, or doing bench press, they do the same in order to fight the gravity. They need to bounce the weight in order to lift it. So the form is completely gone out of the window. Not only that this type of training with wrong form will be completely useless, but is extremely dangerous. And I see that all the time. And this is probably the major cause of injuries that you see in the gyms. Also, many other exercises, they are not easy to actually execute, because they require a lot of knowledge and experience, and you need to know You need to have at least basics of understanding of anatomy, of biomechanics, of application of the force and distribution of the force on the muscle when you exercise. So if you are not really acquainted with this type of knowledge, not much will happen. You will be doing some movements. You will, as I like to say, rather you will be laboring, but not training. And this is happening often. People are doing all kind of stuff, but they are not doing it properly. So if the form is not right, we are not talking about intensity, because form is intensity. Bouncing the weights, just lifting the weights, heavy weights. Heavy weights are not intensity. Intensity is a complex process. Heavy weights are just heavy weights. If your form is not right, there is no intensity. Intensity means weights plus form. If your form is right, if you are controlling the motion, if you're doing the right biomechanical action, then the weight that you're using will be enough to create that intensity which is necessary for you to complete a set of 6 to 8 reps, for example. But if you just put heavy weights and your form is very bad, intensity doesn't exist. You're not putting pressure, you're not applying that force to the muscle in the right form. Therefore, intensity doesn't mean anything. It doesn't exist, actually. So remember, no form, no intensity. Mistake number 4 is a wrong training system. Once again, I often see people come to the gym. They, let's say, start with triceps, right? They do 2-3 exercises for triceps, and then they go to do shoulders. And then after shoulders, they said, oh, now I'm going to do a bit of legs. Or maybe not. Let's do chest. Because they heard push-pull system. So push muscles like triceps, chest, shoulders. So, okay, I'll start with triceps, then do shoulders, then do chest. Or they come and they say, I'm going to do some shoulders today, a little bit of back, and I finish with legs. So I can see that the people are completely detached from understanding what training system is and what training system should be. So training system should be something that will actually allow you to pay attention to emphasize the major muscle groups, which are, again, legs, back, and chest. So these muscle groups, this is the biggest muscle groups on your body. When you develop them, they will give you that shape, that size that you want to achieve. The smaller muscle groups are also important, but not as bigger muscle groups. I mean, what's the point having big forearms, rear delts, and calves when you don't have chest, or you don't have back, or you don't have legs? It looks ridiculous. So you need to put that into equation and pay attention to the biggest muscle groups. And this is how your training system should be created. So, for example, if you are a beginner or maybe an intermediate bodybuilder, and you spend already a few months or a few years in the gym, and possibly you're not doing the best training system that you should, let me give you an example. So, train 4 times a week. Let's say day 1, do chest and abs. Day 2, do legs. Then take day off. Now, day 4 in the week, do back. And day 5 in the week, do shoulders and arms. So shoulders and arms, because they're smaller muscles, they can go together. And as you see, I've given you chest day 1, legs day 2, then day off, then day 4 you do back, and day 5 you do shoulders and arms. Day 6 and 7 you take off again. So this training system will allow you to pay the most of attention to the biggest muscle groups. Chest on their own, maybe with a little bit of abs, it's not a big deal. Then legs, then back, then shoulders and arms. So you will cover the bulk of your system will be actually focusing on the big muscle groups. And that way you will optimize your training potential, and you will be able to fully concentrate, focus on these big muscle groups. That will take you fastest to achieving your goals or developing great looking physique. So this is the mistake number 4, which I believe I have explained, and I suggested the way out of it. So don't just put all different muscles whenever you go in whatever way it is because you feel that way. No, it doesn't work like that. So as I said, follow this training system, and I think you will be definitely avoiding this problem. Now, mistake number 5 is the mistake that is related to the diet for muscle growth. Now, this is obviously not a mistake that is happening in the gym, but I can see people in the gym and I can tell what they are eating and what the choice of their macronutrients is and why they are not looking as they should be looking year round. So not only beginners, not only intermediates, but also advanced bodybuilders often end up being fat in the off season. They are overweight in off season. They have too much body fat. I don't know for what reason is that, but I can see people when they eat in the gym, they are really overeating carbohydrates. This is ridiculous. The amount of carbohydrates that people eat is rice everywhere, all the time. And very few people can get away with it. I know people, personally, the good bodybuilders, who can eat carbohydrates 4 or 5 times a day in quite decent, if I can say, big amounts, and they are still lean. These people are not the rule. They are exception. These are people with extremely fast metabolism. I would say that there is about 10%, maybe 12% of people, global population, that can get away with this high amount of carbohydrates and still stay lean. For the rest of us, this is not the case. Also, I personally advise almost every day people to eat more protein, because protein is the macronutrient that will make your muscles grow. If you don't eat enough protein, nothing else can make your muscles grow. It's simply impossible. So I advise people to eat anywhere from 2 to 3 grams in average, 2 to 3 grams of protein per kg of body weight. So if you are, let's say, 80 kgs, that will be 240 grams of protein, up to 240 grams of protein per day. Now, when it comes to carbohydrates, most of the time, my advice in general is to eat the same amount of carbohydrates. So if you are eating 240 grams of protein, you should be eating 240 grams of carbs. And fat should be anywhere from 70 to 100 grams a day. So as you can see, this is a general advice. Obviously, we are different. Individuals are different. They have different metabolism. And when I work with people one-to-one, I assess that more in detail. And some people may get more protein, less carbohydrates. Some people can get a bit less protein, more carbohydrates. But in general, the advice is, if you want to stay lean in the off-season, if you don't want to get fat, eat the same amount of carbs as you eat protein. So if you eat 200, if you're 80 kgs, for example, you eat 240 grams of protein, you should be eating 240 grams of carbs. Now, I have a very advanced bodybuilders as my clients, and they eat even up to 4 grams of protein per kg. So, for example, one guy who is 100 kgs, he eats around 400 grams of protein, but his carbohydrates are less than 200. So he eats half of the amount of protein in order to stay in shape. And he's quite decent shape, lean. He can still see his six-pack in the off-season. But before the show, we can even increase that protein a bit and decrease the carbs. So carbs sometimes go down to 100 grams. This is his case. In particular, this is one client. I also have clients who have to eat more carbohydrates and therefore less protein. So if you're one of those who do not respond well to high amount of carbohydrates, stick to this advice. Try the same amount, 3 grams of protein and 3 grams of carbs per kg of body weight, with anywhere from 70 to 100 grams of fat a day, and see how things are going. If you're lean, if you're growing, if you're strong, if you're feeling good, this is the right amount for you. If you're getting a bit fat, then I would increase protein a little bit, but then decrease carbohydrates and maybe decrease fat as well. So this is obviously fine-tuning, which comes from working with somebody on one-to-one basis. But in general, you need to eat more protein and be very careful with carbohydrates, because carbohydrates are the main culprit when it comes to getting fat. They turn into fat easily because they are the ones that really literally spike insulin, and this is the reason why carbohydrates go into fat easily. So there is another trend that people believe that carbohydrates are absolutely necessary for strength and energy, and if you don't eat a lot of carbohydrates, you will not be strong. So people are overeating carbohydrates in order to be strong or to be big, but this is not the case at all, because the body is using glycogen. Glycogen is not only made from carbohydrates, and to replenish your glycogen, you don't need 500 grams of carbs a day. You probably need less than that. Maybe you need 150 or 200 max. But if you eat more than that, obviously, they will spill over into body fat, because body cannot store all of that huge amount of carbohydrates in the glycogen. So beware of this, and once again, try to monitor carbohydrates and bring your protein up. So to recap, once again, the 5 biggest mistakes that people make in the gym. Number 1 was avoiding multi-joint exercises. Number 2 is lack of progressive overload. Mistake number 3 is wrong form of execution. Mistake number 4 is wrong training system. And mistake number 5 is not eating enough protein and eating too much carbohydrates. I hope that you like this video, and if you did, please subscribe to my channel and also send me your comments. And for the ones who are interested more in detail about best training systems, best training techniques for muscle growth and fat loss, for the ones who are interested more in detail about nutrition, competitive bodybuilding, fat loss, please visit my website, and you will see ebooks there that I have published for you. There are 7 ebooks in which I focus on obviously training systems, training techniques, bodybuilding for competitive bodybuilding, muscle growth, fat loss, nutrition, and I hope that information that I provided, those ebooks, are essential for your further progress and getting in the best shape of your life. So I hope that you enjoy this video or this podcast, and thank you for tuning in. And I hope to see you soon in the next video. Until then, God bless.